Come join Melissa and her guests on the Chats from the Blog Cabin podcast. From North Carolina, this podcast will have you feeling like you've known these folks for years. Listen in as they chat about life, culture, current events, and more, all with a special Southern flair. Curl up with your favorite beverage and get ready to be entertained. Tune in now for a unique experience that's fun and insightful.
Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Chats from the Blog Cabin. You know, the show where I virtually invite people into the blog cabin to chat about life. And today I am so excited. I've never been this excited to have Gail return. I mean, Gail was on before, and I will link her episode before. But Gail, I actually met through promotional book tours when you were first writing your books, and we were doing the book tours. And I fell in love with your writing. And then you reached out to me and said, hey, I want to come on. I'm like, absolutely, come on. I'm like, I'm so excited you're here. So Gail, for those that don't know who you are, tell us a little about yourself.
Oh, okay. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me, Melissa. So I love to write women's fiction. My latest is women's fiction with a paranormal twist, which makes it a little different. But I'm fascinated by family history and secrets, second chances, forgiveness are all favorites of mine. And I also have a real need to have some romance in the mix. I love to have that. So I'm a teacher, and I've been in theater. I've been an actor and a director. And all of these things, in addition to my counseling degree, really influence my writing.
Yeah, I did not know you had a counseling degree. I learned something new. Now I can see it in your writing, the counseling degree. I can see it throughout, now, especially in soul dancing. I can see it.
That's really something. Well, it really has informed everything I do. I mean, it helped me to be a better theater artist. It definitely helped me to be a better teacher. And when I'm working with actors, I can help them to deal with the psychology of the character that they're playing. And of course, I love to write about these things. I love dysfunctional families. My favorite playwrights were always plays about families that were struggling. So I have that in my writing as well.
So what made you decide to write soul dancing? Because as I told you before we came on, it's so different from any of the other books that you've written. Some similarities, but definitely total. I mean, like I wasn't expecting the paranormal stuff in the very beginning. I'm like, what just happened? I had to read it a couple more times to make sure I read it right, but I'm like, okay.
Well, you know, I don't know what happened. I got this crazy idea for an elderly woman to come back as a young woman and have to sort of choose between her husband and the young man that would be involved with the baby. Then it became more paranormal, sort of as I was writing it. And I wasn't even sure exactly where to put it in genre. You know, what is this? But I didn't really worry about it. I just kept writing, and I always listen to my characters and they tell me what's going on. And a lot of writers feel that way. I'm not really, off the beam. And I just trusted it. And then later I had to figure out, what do I do with it? So that's why I say that it's women's fiction with a paranormal twist, because that's what's interesting about the book, that there's this paranormal element. But it's a vehicle. It's not the whole deal. It's just part of what makes things happen. It puts the characters in a new and an unusual place to try to solve their problems.
Yeah, that is so true. And I like how, even though, not to give the story too much away, but even though, the old woman who is basically dying comes back, she has to deal with some of the things in her new life that she had to deal with in her old life, like the addiction. And I just thought it was so great that you would combine that to see maybe the life skills that she learned in the old life would help her in her new life.
Exactly. And things come around full circle all the time in life. So I found it fascinating that was what happened to Charlene, that she had to deal with similar things. And like I said, I didn't know that was going to happen. I honestly didn't. It just came out in the writing. And I get surprised by my writing all the time. I go, wow, I hadn't thought of that. It's really the characters who are telling me what's going on. I have to listen.
So let's take me through the process of writing Soul Dancing, because obviously this one has been, I think I remember you talking about wanting to write this when we had our interview. It's been a while for you to actually get through this.
It's been endless. Well, I had the idea and I took a lot of notes and wrote them all down and put them aside because I had to finish Annie Chronal Moonrise, the third book in the trilogy. And that's a long book, and it's very involved because you have so many characters with the two granddaughters and their boyfriends, and Annie has new things going on with her and Packard. It was very complex. So I got through that book, and the day after I launched it, I started seriously writing Soul Dancing. And I got pretty well into it. And then Cat and Mouse Press from Delaware approached me to write Eastern Shore Shorts because they love the Annie Chronal trilogy and they wanted it done. So I put Soul Dancing on the back burner again. And I wrote Eastern Shore Shorts, and that took about a year. They're 9 short stories. And then I spent the summer promoting them. And I finally got back to Soul Dancing, and I was actually kind of stuck. I wasn't sure what to do because of the big break. It kind of messed me up. So I ended up doing a mind map instead of an outline. I'm not really great with outlines because they tend to sort of kill my spontaneity and my creativity. But I had taken this course, and they talked about doing mind maps. So I just had a bunch of colored pencils and a big sheet of paper, and I started writing the characters' names down and drawing arrows and plot ideas and things I was using. That's how I discovered Chase, Cameron's brother, with that mind. So it really helped me to get back into writing. So, I don't know, I spent another year or two writing. I'm not a fast writer. And then I started querying. It took 2 years to find someone that wanted to do Soul Dancing, Red Adept Publishing, and I was really happy with them. And then it took them 2 years to get it published because there's the whole process of editing. And it's been a labor of love. But it's out there now, so I'm really happy.
I love how you said it's been a whole process, and especially with the editing. Was there fighting when you were editing things? No, that needs to stay in because it's integral to the story?
They gave me the best editors. I had a content editor, and then I had a line editor. And they both worked with me. They were both young women. We never met in person. Everything's online anymore. But they were so good. And I always trust my editors. So I don't fight a lot. I don't feel like I had any huge hurdles with either of them. If I really felt strongly about something, they would respect me, which I really appreciated. There was a mutual respect. I super respected them. They were so good. So it went along pretty well, pretty easily. And it certainly made the book better. They both had a big influence on the book.
Now, like I said, this is different from any story that you've written before, but did you draw some of the characters from people that you met in your own life?
Well, I borrowed the name Charlene from my cousin-in-law with her permission because it's such a fun name. And I needed an old-fashioned name. And she's only in her 80s, but still, it's important that you have a name that fits the time. And then when I was writing her husband, I started realizing that this couple would have gotten together during World War II, judging from the time period, the time frame of the book. And I thought, well, they survived World War II. How were they involved? What were they going through? So my very best friend, Pat, her dad, who I've always loved, was a fighter pilot in World War II. And I called Chal. His name is Charles, but we always call him Chal. Called Chal and I said, I'm really wanting to interview you. And I know a little of your story from having grown up with his family, basically. And he said, please come over. We had the best time. He was so willing to talk about everything. He flew 26 combat missions over Europe in a P-47 Thunderbolt. He didn't think he was going to survive, but he did. He was in love with Pat's mom, Barb, and they were waiting to get married. And then when peace was declared in Europe, he was supposed to ship off to Japan, but he had a little break between. And he came home and he said, let's get married now. So they did. Mm-hmm. So I borrowed a lot of this from them for Soul Dancing. And sadly, Chal never saw it published because he passed away a couple years ago. But I dedicated the book to him. He was a wonderful man. His picture is probably behind me somewhere on this shelf. There he is. And I'm very fortunate that he was so generous with his story.
Wow.
Was there anybody else that was based on a real person? A tiny little bit with Cameron, my other very dear friend. Her son for a long time was a Philadelphia school teacher, and I borrowed that for Cameron. I thought it would work really well if he happened to be a history buff, and that would connect him to, and it would cause more conflict for him because then he's kind of caught between Stan and Charlene. I love triangles.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I do.
Was there one character with you that you were like, your heart just, I know you're not, as authors, you're not supposed to have favorites, but is there one character that you like, were like, I love the way this character has come about?
Yeah, Hattie.
Hattie.
I know. Hattie is a hoot. And, I did borrow some very specific physical details and her intellect from my friend Nikki. I wanted Hattie to be brilliant and have had a successful career and have had to fight to get where she was going, being a Black woman. And my dear friend Nikki had similar experiences. She was a college professor, a linguist, super bright, really graceful. She now Hattie's not as tall as Nikki, but Hattie still walked into a room and commanded it and had that fabulous posture, which I'm always fighting with my posture, sit up straight now. And Nikki has that because she studied ballet. So I borrowed all those things. And some of Nikki's gestures, the way Nikki will lean into a table and put her hand on her chin, I borrowed all that for Hattie too. But I love Hattie. I just think she's amazing.
I love the fact that Hattie she knows her stuff, but she also can be a little tricky too. That little trick that she played, I was like, yes, girl, get it. You got what you needed.
Yeah, she was so easy to write. She just flowed right onto the page. It's remarkable.
And I think she was also a great voice of reason too for the sounding board for both your main characters.
Yes, they really needed somebody to ground them because they go through so much. I put them through their paces.
Yeah, I mean, you have not one, but two episodes with Charlene that she's like, boom, boom. And I'm like, man, what more can you go? I was waiting for a third one to come up because I was like.
And poor Cameron, I feel sorry for what I put him through.
Yeah.
I blow his mind, and it's important to have Hattie to kind of pull him in, help him to figure things out.
Yeah, for sure. We need to take a brief commercial break, but then we'll be right back.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Joanna, and I would like to share with you a little bit about Shores of Grace, Shores Philly. It's a ministry located in Philadelphia. The portion of Shores that I volunteer for goes into Kensington, an area greatly impacted by homelessness and addiction. And we go and we take love, food, clothing, snacks, conversation. We believe that it is a way that we can meet people right where they are and show them the love of Jesus. And we have seen lives changed in big ways and in small ways, and we have built wonderful relationships with the people in the community. We have big plans, more we'd like to do, and we would appreciate any support, either through prayer or through donation. If you would like to donate, you can go to shoresofgrace.com, and in the menu, click on Donate. We just ask that you put Philly in your donation comments. Thank you.
And we are back chatting with Gail. I thought that was appropriate since you're around that area, correct?
Yes, I am right outside Philadelphia in New Jersey. Go Phillies, go Eagles.
Eagles. We're going to talk about the Kelsey brothers now. Was there one point when you were writing this book that you were like, why am I writing it? Because it's so different from what you write. You obviously said it was a struggle getting down to write it because so many other things came up.
Well, one thing that really threw me was the big twist, and we can't say what it is. Yeah. But there's a big twist, and I had no idea that was going to happen. The character told me this was what was happening, and I thought I was finishing the novel at that point. And I said, well, it can't end here. This is not appropriate. It doesn't work. But it works as a great twist. So I actually felt that I was writing two books and I was going to release a duet. But it's harder to pitch a 2-book deal. So I went and rewrote everything and made it 1 book. And that was difficult. That was a lot of work, and it took me back time-wise because I had to use time to get that done. So I was behind my schedule trying to get it published, but I had to trust it, and it worked out. That was a critical moment when I thought, what am I doing?
So you basically had to take 2 books and condense it into 1. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I cut out a lot. I cut out a few characters, and it really became the perfect length, I think. It's a nice big book. You really can sink into it. You enjoy it for a while. It's not a one-day read. It takes a few days to read. I like that. It's meaty, There's a lot going on.
Yeah, and I would agree. It's not a one-day read because there's so many intricate details that you have to kind of let your mind set into it. Because like I said at the very beginning, I reread the first couple of pages, like the first one, all that was happening. And I was like, did I read that right? And I went back and reread it. And I'm like, yeah. And then there's one point where Rain calls Cameron by a different name. And I'm like, wait a second, who is this person? And so I had to stop and okay, I get it now. But it's like so, because, you can identify with that because there's a name that your family knows you by. And then there's also a name that other people know you by. Anybody reading the book can identify, but it was just like, who is this person? I'm like, oh, wait a second. Now I know who he is. But it was just like, did she write the wrong name on this thing?
Yeah, it's a complex story.
So where did the idea come from to write this?
I hate to admit this, but I can't really remember because it was so long ago when I first came up with it. I don't know if I had it come to me in a dream or I just dreamed it up. But I do remember very specifically going to spend a day with my friend Pat, whose father became the influence for Stan with his World War II experiences. And I tell Pat everything. So we were sitting in a garden, and I know we were sitting in Adirondack chairs under this big, big tree, so it was nice and cool. And I said, I've come up with this crazy idea. What do you think if an older woman came back in a younger woman's body, and she had to really figure out who her soulmate was? The book was called Soulmates originally. And I thought it was about her choosing between Stan and Cameron, but I was wrong about that because as I wrote it, I became more aware that she could love both of them. And that became pretty much a theme of the book, that you can love more than one person equally and for different reasons. So then it switched to soul dancing. Well, I had a couple other names. My husband would say, what's it called this week? But I think soul dancing really captures it. But I do remember that conversation with Pat. And the point that I was trying to make, even though I went on a tangent, is that Pat loved the idea. She thought this was so fun. And even though it had this strange kind of paranormal science fiction-y thing going on, she thought it would work. So I went ahead.
Yeah, because it does work, 100% work.
But
you mentioned your husband asking you what's the name this week. How supportive? He's got to be really supportive for writing. You're like, you just told me you just went back teaching this week, and now you're the writing and the marketing and everything else, and you celebrated 45 years, which kudos to that.
Thank you.
How do you navigate the marriage with your writing and having dedicated time to write as well?
Well, we both are very artistic. He's a photographer, and I've always been in theater. So I had a lot of rehearsals and performances on weekends. I traveled. I went away to do shows. I'd be gone for a month or so back in the day. So the writing is an extension of that. We've just always had this lifestyle. And he's tremendously supportive, as I am, of his creative areas. He's kind of like a Renaissance man. He can do just about anything. So we navigate and support each other. He's the first one to read anything I've written. He gives me very honest opinions about what's working, what's not working. He's a big help that way.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, obviously something works because you've been together 45 years.
I'm very lucky.
Is he your first reader of your books?
Mm-hmm. Before beta readers, before any other friends. I don't let him read the first draft because it's just, But when I get to a point where it's ready to be read, that sounded a little redundant. It's ready to be read. He's the first one. Yeah, it's always been that way.
Has there ever been a time where he's like giving you a little bit of critique on it and you're like, no, you don't see, this is wrong. You don't see where I was going with this.
Well, the twist that became the midpoint of soul dancing, when I first wrote it, I thought it was the end, and he loved it. He thought it was great. And I'm like, no, you can't end it there. If I read that ending and that's where the book ended, I would be so angry and so upset. But he thought it was very cool. So we did disagree on that.
Yes, I can see as a reader, if the twist is what you're saying the twist is what I'm thinking the twist is, I would have been so mad with you, and I would have said, Gail, we cannot do this interview. Not really. But I would have the interview, but I would have let you have it on the interview. Because I hate it when you get to a point, even when you see, like if you're watching a TV show and somebody has a baby and they don't tell you the sex of the baby or the name of the baby. I want those details as a viewer, as a reader. You want those details. So that twist, if you had ended it like that, I would have said, that's how the book ends.
No, can't end there.
No. So you were thinking about the readers when you were writing that book too, as well.
Oh, definitely. I often think about the readers. I don't, like, as an actor, I try not to think about the audience, but I have to be aware of them. I have to sense them without, no, how can I explain this? Because if they laugh, you have to hold your line before you say the next line. And if you're doing something dramatic, you want to kind of hold them in the palm of your hand. And there's a sense of them. They're almost another character. So when I'm writing, it's very similar because I think about how will the audience take this? How will they respond to this? What is going to reach them and help them in their lives? I really want to promote healing and forgiveness and second chances in my writing. So I do keep the audience in mind.
Yeah, because you definitely promoted that in this book, and then some in this book. Now, I want to talk about a unique character that you had, and that was Cameron's landlady. And she was very unique. Where did you draw her from?
She just appeared. I honestly can't think of any inspiration outside of the book, like a person or anything. She just ended up being in that lower foyer because her apartment was on the first floor. And she kept popping out and saying hello and getting involved with what was going on. And she was always supportive, a very loving maternal figure. And I liked that because Cameron didn't have such a great relationship with his parents. And there was a kind of a rift there. So I think he appreciates his landlady's kindness and generosity.
I agree 100%. He needed that maternal figure. Once things happened in the book, Hattie sort of became that maternal figure for him as well.
That's very true. Yes.
Mm-hmm. A maternal figure for all of them, basically, even for Charlene.
Yes, she's one of those best friends that tells you the bottom line. She doesn't let Charlene get away with anything.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question. I know I probably asked you this when we were talking about Annie Kroll, but I see this becoming a movie more so than the other trilogy that you wrote because of the paranormal twist. I think that's what people lean to now more, seeing movies like that. Who do you think would play these characters?
Oh my gosh. I was having that conversation on Facebook with a former high school student. I mean, like from my class, a friend from high school. He was casting people. Wow. I haven't given it serious thought. What about you? Who do you think of anybody? Does anybody come to mind for you?
I keep thinking, because I guess it's because she just has a movie out with Blake Lively. I'm thinking her as Rain, as coming back, because she's played that type of role before.
Right.
Where she's gone back.
Yeah, we can't give away any spoilers, so we got to be careful.
I know, that's the reason why I was like, she's played that kind of role before. But, that's the only one that really popped in my head. But you've got so many strong characters that it's going to be hard to pick people because they're strong in themselves, and then you're trying to, if you want to upplay one role as opposed to the other ones, and you're going to have, if you get a star-studded cast, then it may get egos clash. You know what I'm saying?
We should be so lucky. I would love to have that problem.
Yeah.
I do really see it on the screen. I see it as a limited miniseries. That appeals to me for this. I just have to get it in front of the right people. So we'll keep plugging.
Maybe Hulu, Netflix, do it. Here we're putting the vibes out. We're putting it out in the universe. It's going to happen.
Out in the universe.
So what is next for you? Since you're promoting the book, you're going back to school.
Yes, teaching at Rowan University as an adjunct, so it's not full-time. I retired from full-time. Well, I actually am releasing a holiday romance in the beginning of October. And it's a story I wrote a long, long time ago. It was a free story on my website, a short story. But I took it off the website a long time ago, but it kept coming back to me. I kept thinking about these characters. So I rewrote it and I added scenes. I changed some characters. I got rid of some characters. And because of Gary, my husband, I changed a main plot point that he said, that's not good for a holiday story. It was too serious. So I'm so excited. It's all finished. It's being put onto, all the retailers. The cover is precious. I just love it. And we put little holly at the top of each chapter. It's very, very Christmassy. So it's called A Collingswood Christmas, which is my hometown and my husband's hometown. We went to high school together. We weren't together, but we were friends. And I had a secret crush on him.
Oh,
We got together the year after high school. So anyway, I'm very pleased that I'm sort of writing a love note to our hometown. It's going to be sweet. So it's a novelette. It's not a long story, but that's coming out. And then after that, I've got a book that I've been writing that I'm stuck with. I'm just stuck. I can't get past some sort of spot. I have the whole story, but it's just not deep enough yet. It's called Jackson's Jetty, and it takes place in Cape May Point, New Jersey. So I've put it on the back burner, and I love these characters, and I think eventually I'll figure out what the problem is. And my husband said to me, he should be in here, right, for part of the interview.
yeah.
He said, but he's watching the Phillies. They're playing right now. I didn't know what to do, and I knew I needed to take a break from Jackson's Jetty. And Gary said, what about your stage play, A Thing with Feathers, which I absolutely love, and I really enjoy these characters. He said it would make a great novel. So I had a heck of a time trying to find it. I found it on a floppy disk or some crazy thing in a box in my closet. So now I'm reading it and trying to figure out how am I going to put this into a novel. I think it's going to unfold nicely. And it also takes place in Cape May Point, New Jersey. It's a favorite place of ours. It's very beautiful. It's right on the ocean and the bay, the Delaware Bay and the Atlantic Ocean. And we spent a lot of time down there. The main character is a bird rehabilitator, and we're both birders. So I have a lot, like I do in Annie Crow, I have, more birding stuff going on in A Thing with Feathers. So that's what I'm on to next.
I love that. I'm seeing a theme with you, though. It seems like you work on something and then you put it aside for a while and then you come back to it because soul dancing happened that way, some of the other ones. But I love the fact that you're taking something and you work on it and you're like, I'm stuck, but it doesn't make you stuck on all your projects. You're like, I'm moving on to something else and I'll come back to it. Right. Whereas a lot of writers will say, I'm stuck, or a lot of people in life will say, I'm stuck, and then just stay there.
Right. Yeah. Life is too short to stay there. You have to keep moving.
Yep. Now, you have your book with you, so will you please read part of your book? I'm going to let you know that I'm going to actually remove myself. I'm still here, but I'm going to remove myself from the screen, so it's all on you.
Okay. All right. This is from Soul Dancing, a little bit into the book. Rain settles on a park bench. Please. She pats the spot next to her. I sit. She clasps her shaking hands together and settles them in her lap. She crosses her legs at the ankles. For several moments, she doesn't say a word. What's going on? Why are you so different? Why were you at Jefferson Hospital? Come on, spill. I'm not sure how to tell you this. Well, you have to. Just spit it out. What the hell is going on with you? I ask. Rain bites her lip. All right, let's start with why you were at Jefferson. Is there anything wrong? Are you sick? No. Did you go there yesterday too? I ask. Yes. Okay. Were you visiting someone in the hospital? Yes. I'm going to lose control if I have to keep prodding her. Who? My husband. I leap to my feet. What? A lady walking her French bulldog glances our way. Sit down, Rain whispers. I have no desire to sit, but I do, clenching my jaw. It's not what you think. She straightens on the bench. My head is about to explode. You're married? Is the baby his? No. Is it Chase's? Yes. Well, I guess so. You guess so? My heart is pounding in my chest. I wonder if it's possible for a man to have a stroke before he's 30. She blurts out, I don't know for sure because I'm not Rain. What the hell are you saying? She clasps and unclasps her hands. Rain is gone. She died in the delivery room. Have you lost your mind? You're sitting right next to me. Hang on. I'm not Rain, she repeats. I died too. Well, I left my body at any rate and saw the light, but fought it because I thought my elderly husband couldn't manage without me. Then somehow, she takes a deep breath, I was transported into Rain's body during her final moments of labor. When Rain let go, I took over. She begins to cry again. And now Stan needs hospice. I want to bring him home to take care of him. Stan is your husband? I can't believe I'm asking this as if the situation is normal or even plausible, but I can't have her crying. I'm overwhelmed with the need to comfort her, but I'm too pissed to think straight. She nods and runs her wrist under her nose. And who the hell are you? I'm sorry. Who are you? My name is Charlene Foster. I instinctively shift away from her on the bench. I'm not sure who Arlene's father is, only Rain could tell you, but 9 months ago, I was in my own body dealing as best I could with cancer. I hesitate to ask, but the situation is so absurd that I do. How old are you? I'm 90. I notice my right heel is tapping, a nervous habit I stopped back in my teens. I settle my foot on the ground. This isn't happening. Tell me about it. 1 minute I'm in excruciating pain. It melts away. I see a bright light. After that, I'm in a nauseating vortex. Then I'm having labor pains in a body with tattoos and enough piercing holes to sink a ship. She finishes her rant and her voice softens. But I have a baby. Her turquoise eyes meet mine. Arlene is amazing. Totally. She briefly touches my hand and energy flutters in my chest. If it's not a stroke, it's the beginning of a heart attack. I slip my hand away. I can't help myself. Rain, is this some sort of sick joke? I'm not Rain, and I'm not sick or insane. This is absolutely terrifying, and I need you to believe me.
Wow. I forgot that she was 90. I
Yes.
remember reading that, but I'm like, oh my goodness, what a different lifestyle. I mean, literally a different. What made you decide to make her 90 and then have this young girl? I mean, because the young girl is total like 180-degree opposite of her.
Right. She's 20. Rain is 20, has addiction issues. She's not well educated. She's on the street half the time. She's got a lot of problems, a really tough life. And Charlene certainly had her challenges. She lost her brother in World War II. She's had addiction issues, but she's very pulled together, has always been, had a lot of family support, very well educated, very articulate, very loving, not selfish at all, almost selfless at times. And I liked the juxtaposition of all that. And to have her go into Rain's body and Rain completely change, it's like, well, does childbirth change a woman this much? Poor Cameron's trying to figure out why his brother's girlfriend that Chase abandoned is so different. Well, it's because someone else is in there.
Yeah, that is, I mean, to me, though, it's almost like the adage, you can't judge someone until you walk in their shoes.
Mm.
It's almost like you use that to show, hey, you don't know what's going on with somebody until you're actually walking in their shoes.
Very true. We really don't.
I mean, I was blown away by, first of all, like I said, that part right there that you read, I was like, did I read that right? wait a second, what's going on? And the little bit before it too, when like she wakes up and she has the baby, and I'm like, wait a second, is this a different person? I'm just like, because you're thrown because you're not expecting that to happen. It's a twist, one of the many twists in the book that you aren't expecting to happen. And because you see her, she's basically dying of cancer. I mean, on her deathbed. And then she is given this second chance of life. And then you find out later on in the book that there's more second chances that she missed out on that now she's able to have over and over and over again.
Right.
So what do you think the moral of this book is? The lesson of this book is?
You ask good questions. What is the moral of this book? I think it's forgiveness. Being able to forgive someone that you love when they do something wrong, giving people a second chance with that forgiveness, letting them come back into your life or continue to be in your life if it's healthy.
Yeah.
That's about forgiveness. Trillian has to forgive things in herself too, and so does Cameron. They really do have to forgive themselves even before they can forgive other people.
And I love the fact that they work through that they're kind of side by side working. And then later on at the end, they work at it together, but they're side by side going through this together, not realizing what the other one's going through.
Definitely.
At the end, it's like, oh, wait a second. You were going through this. I was going through this. Because I think they were too hard-headed. And I think Hattie being introduced was the great way for them to actually come together and realize that the things they were struggling with are things they can help each other out with.
That's well put. Thank you, Melissa. Very nice. You should ask yourself, what's the theme of the novel? You gave a really good answer.
How do you? I honestly think that that's why Hattie came to you, was because you needed someone to kind of guide them along their journey.
True. I really love long friendships.
Obviously.
So knowing, yes, and I have friends that I've had since I was little. And we really know each other. We've watched each other go through ups and downs and tragedies and joyous times. We really know each other. So I love that. I have it with Annie and Grace in the Annie Cronall trilogy. They're together from the time they're 8 or 9 until, all the way through the 3rd book. They're still helping each other and supporting each other and being honest with each other the way a best friend can be. So I think Hattie showed up because I love that.
Yeah, I think so too. But like I said, she's my favorite. She's totally my favorite character.
Yeah, she's
totally favorite. I honestly see her being played on the actress is not around now, but the one that played on Good Times, Florida. I can see her. I can see that type of personality because she did not take no for an answer, and she let people have it when they were like. But I see that type of personality. So we are almost at the end. Is there one last little nugget that you want to share with us?
Or so much fun. Well, I'm going to encourage readers to support the writers that they love, the authors that they love. You put out a book and you need reviews. You need to hear from people that it's working. We have egos, fragile egos like every artist. So try to support your writers, the ones you really love. Take that couple minutes and write a review, especially in Amazon, because Amazon algorithms really affect how much a book is shown to other readers, potential readers. So take that time and do that. And writers will be grateful.
And share your books as well. Like if you found a really good book that you really love, like I'm sharing right now.
Thank you.
And I will get full disclosure. Gail did not send me a copy of her book. Gail actually asked me when I interviewed her, but I went ahead and bought the book because I knew that it would help her out. Aww. And I will say that I 100% do not regret buying the book.
Good. I'm glad. I offered the book because I want to help people out that are helping me out. But you had already bought it. You beat me to it.
Well, I think it's because we originally had scheduled this interview and then both of us got COVID. And
both got sick. Yeah.
That's a whole other can of worms.
Crazy summer.
Yep, for sure. So, Gail, thank you for coming on. Where can people find you at?
Thank you so much. GailPriest.com is the easiest thing because all my links are in there. You can sign up for my newsletter from there. You can find my books from there. So it's sort of the central hub.
For sure. And I will tell you guys that if you pick up one of Gail's books, I promise you will not regret reading it, because she has so many twists and turns that there's going to be something in there that appeals to you as a person.
Thank you.
Because your characters are definitely not one-dimensional. They definitely have things that somebody's struggling with in everyday life. So even the paranormal one, there's a lot of things that people were struggling with that people could identify with. So it's not so woo-woo off the wall. You know, when you think paranormal, you think, but no, it's not. It's just a very unique twist on I want to say a love story, a story of forgiveness as well.
Exactly. You're so right. I'm really glad that you said a love story, because it is. It's a love story, and it has more than two people involved.
Yeah, you like those triangles. I think you did a pentagon. I've had so much fun, and I cannot wait for you to come back on when your novelette comes out, whenever anything else comes out. You have an open invitation to come back on, because I just love chatting with you.
You make it easy. You make it fun. Thank you.
All right, guys, I will put in the show notes everywhere where you can find Soul Dancing, as well as every other book that Gail has written, because like I said, I promise you won't regret it, as well as where you can contact Gail as well. So until next time, bye, guys.